My name is Elena Thompson. I am 54 years old, and for most of my life, I believed my father, Richard Rick Thompson, was the epitome of devotion, a quiet, reliable man who worked as a regional sales manager for a farm equipment company, came home every night to our modest ranch-style house in Columbus, Ohio, kissed my mother on the cheek, and helped us kids with homework at the kitchen table. He coached my brother's Little League team, built me a treehouse when I was 10, and never missed a family vacation to the Lake Erie shores. He and Mom celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary just 2 years before he died. We toasted with cheap champagne in the backyard, laughing about how they'd made it work through thick and thin. Dad passed away in March 2025 from complications after a routine knee surgery. Something went wrong with the anesthesia, and his heart just gave out. He was 78. It was sudden, but not entirely unexpected at his age. The funeral was packed. Old coworkers, neighbors, church friends from St. Mary's, even some guys from his bowling league. Everyone spoke of him as steady, kind, the kind of man who kept his word and put family first. Mom was devastated but held up remarkably, leaning on me, my brother Mark, 51, and my sister Lavra, 48. We 3 siblings rallied around her, promising we'd handle everything. That's when it started. Cleaning out Dad's home. Office a small room off the garage that he'd always called his sanctuary. It was cluttered with yellowed sales manuals, fishing trophies, and stacks of old tax files. Mom couldn't face it, so I volunteered. Mark helped haul boxes, Laura sorted. Photos for a memorial album. One Saturday afternoon in April, about a month after the burial, I was on my knees digging through the bottom drawer of his ancient oak desk when my hand brushed against a metal lockbox tucked away in the back. It was heavy, dusty, the kind with a combination lock. I'd never seen it before. Mark, I called out, come look at this. He poked his head in. Dad's old ammo box? He kept fishing lures and something like that. But it wasn't lures. The combination Mom's birthday, 0827, popped it open easily. Inside were neatly bundled letters tied with twine. Birth certificates, photographs, a second will dated 2018. And a thick envelope labeled, "For my children read only if necessary." My heart skipped. Why a second will? Dad's official one, read by the family lawyer just weeks earlier, have left everything straightforward. The house to Mom, savings split equally among us 3 kids, his old truck to Mark. I started with the letters. Dozens of them, handwritten on faded stationery, addressed to my dearest Rick, and signed, "All my love, Caroline." The postmarks were from a small town called Marietta, about 2 hours southeast of Columbus, right along the Ohio River, dates going back to the late 1970s, around the time I was born. The first one I read, dated June 1982, "My darling Rick, the boys are growing so fast. Tommy took his first steps yesterday, right into your armchair, the one you left here." I laughed and cried at the same time. I wish you could have seen it. Work keeping you away again this week? I understand, but the house feels empty without you. Come home soon. The garden is blooming just like you promised we'd plant together. Forever yours, Carolyn, Tommy. We didn't have a Tommy in our family. My stomach twisted. More letters. Holidays described. Thanksgivings with turkey and pumpkin pie, Christmases with lights on a different house, Easters hunting eggs in a backyard I'd never seen. Carolyn wrote about school plays, dentist appointments, a family dog named Max. She mentioned our little Sarah, born in 1985, 3 years after me. Then the photos. Dad, younger, grinning in front of a cozy brick house with a wraparound porch. Dad holding 2 boys blown like him, 1 toddler, 1 infant. Dad at a graduation, arm around a teenage girl who looked eerily like Laura. Dad. Older, graying, at a wedding his arm around Carolyn, an elegant woman in her 60s with soft brown hair and kind eyes. The boys now men in tuxes beside them. Birth certificates: Thomas Richard Thompson, born 1981, father Richard Thompson, mother Carolyn Marie Ellis Thompson. Sarah Elizabeth Thompson, born 1985, marriage certificate, Richard Thompson and Carolyn Ellis, married August 1979 in Washington County Courthouse, Marietta, Ohio. Dad had married Mom in 1972. 7 years earlier, he wasn't divorced. He wasn't widowed. He was a bigamist. I sat on the dusty floor, letters scattered around. Me like fallen leaves, and felt the world tilt. Mark found me there, pale and shaking. He read a few pages, then a few more. His face went from confusion to horror. Elena, this can't be real. But it was. The second Will confirmed it. Half his estate-specific accounts and properties we'd never heard of to my beloved wife Carolyn and our children Thomas and Sarah. The official will we'd seen. It only covered the Columbus assets. He'd compartmentalized everything perfectly. We didn't tell Mom that night or the next. We needed to understand first. Mark and I drove to Marietta the following weekend. The address from the letters led to a quiet street in a historic neighborhood, Victorian homes. Tree-lined, the river glinting nearby. The brick house with the porch matched the photos exactly. A for sale sign was freshly planted in the yard. A woman answered the door, Carolyn. Mid-70s, slim, wearing a cardigan and jeans, silver hair and a neat bob. She looked at us, puzzled, then her eyes widened in recognition. She knew who we were. Of course she did. She'd seen our photos too, probably hidden in Dad's other lockbox. You're Elena and Mark, she said softly, voice trembling. He talked about you all the time. We stood on the porch for what felt like hours, though it was minutes. She invited. Then the house smelled of lemon polish and fresh bread. Family photos everywhere. Dad with her, with Tommy and Sarah at various ages. A life parallel to ours. Caroline's story poured out, calm but laced with old pain. She'd met Dad in 1977 when he was in Marietta for a sales conference. He swept her off her feet, charming, attentive. Told her he was divorced, no kids, a lie. They married quietly in 79. Tommy came in 81. Sarah in 85. Dad traveled for work, a lot 3 or 4 days a week in Columbus, he said, managing territories. But he was home weekends and holidays alternately, splitting time with military precision. One Christmas here, next there. One summer vacation to Disney with us, the next to the Outer Banks with them. He provided for both households. Modest in Columbus, our house paid off slowly, one used car at a time. But in Marietta, nicer, the big porch house bought in 1985. College funds for Tommy and Sarah, a boat on the river. Carolyn suspected something by the mid-1990s. Odd phone calls he brushed off, vague stories about old friends. Once she found a photo of us kids in his wallet. Confronted him. He cried, confessed partway, said he had ex-family obligations, but swore he loved her most. That the marriage to Mom was over in every way but paper. Promised to divorce Mom soon. But he never did. Carolyn stayed for the kids, for the life they'd built, because leaving would mean uprooting everything. And strangely, because he was good to them when he was there. Attentive father, loving husband in that house. Tommy and Sarah knew bits. Tommy, now 44, a high school teacher, remembered asking why Dad was away so much. Got evasive answers. Sarah, 39, a nurse, found out more in her 20s when she overheard a phone argument. They hated the secrecy but loved him. Anyway, Dad died in the Columbus hospital. Caroline got the call from his work phone, a separate cell we never knew about. She and the kids came to the funeral but stayed in the back, anonymous, mourning silently among strangers. They left. Before the reception, now the house was for sale because Carolyn was moving to Florida near Sarah. Dad's death had closed a chapter, but the money from his secret accounts would help. Mark and I drove home in silence, 4 hours of interstate blurring past. How many times had Dad made this exact drive, switching roles like changing shirts? Devoted dad in one life, devoted dad in the other. Telling Mom was the hardest thing I've ever done. We sat her down in the living room, the same room where Dad used to read the newspaper every evening. I handed her a few letters, the marriage certificate. She read in silence, face draining of color. Then she wept, not loud, but deep, shoulder shaking. Sobs that seemed to come from her bones. How? She whispered. 53 years, how did I not know? We all asked that. The signs were there, subtle. His overnight sales trips, 3 nights a week for decades. Always cash for expenses, separate. Credit cards we attributed to business. The way he never wanted big parties or family reunions that might overlap schedules. How he dodged questions about his early years. We filled in the gaps with trust. Laura took it hardest at first rage. Screamed at his photo, threw out his. Old bowling ball. Mark withdrew, drinking too much. I felt numb, then furious, then profoundly sad. The legal mess took months. Lawyers mediated. Both families valid in the eyes of the law. No bigamy made the second marriage void, but Dad's intent clear in the private will. We settled out of court. Mom kept the Columbus house and most savings. Caroline got the Marietta house proceeds and half the investment accounts. He'd built significant wealth through careful stocks unknown to us. Tommy and Sarah each got a share equivalent to ours. The legal mess took months. Lawyers mediated. Both families valid in the eyes of the law. No bigamy made the second marriage void, but Dad's intent clear in the private will. We settled out of court. Mom kept the Columbus house and most savings. Caroline got the Marietta house proceeds and half the investment accounts. He built significant wealth through careful stocks unknown to us. Tommy and Sarah each got a share equivalent to ours. We met them properly a few times. Awkward coffee shops, neutral ground. Tommy looks like Mark's same jawline. Sarah has my eyes. We shared DNA, holidays we never knew overlapped, a father who loved us all but divided himself to do it. I've questioned everything now. The treehouse, was it guilt? The coaching making up for absences elsewhere? Every I love you feels tainted. Was any story true? The war anecdotes he served in Vietnam verified. The fishing tailies, he fished both rivers. But the core his character fractured. Mom sold the house last year, moved to a condo near me. She dates now, tentatively a widower from church. Says she refuses to let his lie define her remaining years. Carolyn sent Christmas cards the first year. We reciprocated politely. No blended Thanksgivings yet. I visit Dad's grave sometimes. One stone, Richard Thompson, loving husband and father. Ironic. There should be 2 graves. I think one for the man we knew, one for the stranger, but grief is complicated. I miss him, the him I thought I had. And strangely, I mourn the closure. Caroline's family got in their own way. We all lost the same man, but different versions. 54 years old, and I'm still piecing together who my father really was. 2 families, 1 ghost. Some days I hate him. Some days I understand the fear of losing either life drove him to this impossible balancing act. Most days I just carry the weight of 2 sets of memories, mine and the ones I never lived.